Hi there, welcome to my video, and I'm going to show you how to make this, a foam prototype of just pink foam that you can use for insulation. Okay, now what you're going to need for this is just some pink insulation foam. I use 3/4 inch. Then to cut it all up, I just used a bandsaw, a large round X-Acto knife, then I used a round gouging tool from just a carving kit. Then you're also going to need something to stick it all together. So I used glue that's made specifically for insulation foam. It's 3M model 78. You can buy it just someplace like Menards or something. You're also going to need a pen, ruler, and a compass. Now the first step what you're going to need to do is you're going to want to take the plastic that's put onto the foam. So take that off first. Our first major step is going to make a cube that we're going to carve everything out of. So you're going to want to cut up your foam into small squares that are all basically the same size. Then you're just going to glue them all together, and from here we'll make some marks so we can make it all nice and clean cut to be a nice little square. And here you go. Now you have your nice clean square that we can start making marks on to make our first cut. Alright, now our next big step is to make our square into a cylinder. Alright, here you can see I have made my circle and some crosshairs. From here you're going to be able to cut it out. Now as you can see I have cut my circle using just a bandsaw. When you're doing this you're going to want to try to keep as smooth a rotation as you go around as possible. Okay, now we're going to make a mark for our next major cut, which is just going to be kind of like the top. Make a dome. And here's the line for it. Okay, here you can see that I have used the bandsaw to cut the top off. And then I remarked the lines on it all the way on the top and down the sides so I can use this later to make my other good marks. And here's a side view before I put down the marks. But you can see the rounded top. And here you can see I just made a couple quick cuts on the side to help give me another good shape. Now I've also cut all the way around in front and made a little bit of a mark to kind of see where the main visor will be. Alright, now things are starting to get complicated. For here, I decided just to start on one side and then go to the other side later. So here you can see my marks that I made on one side. And go all the way to the back, and so here, and from here, I want to start carving things out. So I started at the very top section. I used the bandsaw to make some rough cuts, and then I used the X-Acto knife to make some smaller cuts and just to carve it out and make good shape. Now you're going to start now before you start going too meticulous, just get a good shape, and as you get going later on, you can always cut some more off later just to make sure it looks fine. Don't worry about its roughness, we'll sand it all at the very end. Alright, now I move down to the next section, and to start off with, I took the X-Acto knife and just kind of ran it along the line just to make sure I can cut someplace too and it'll just fall out. Then I took the gouging tool and I just kind of ran it along, kind of along the lines, followed that along first. Then I just kind of went vertically, and as I did it, I cut a little in because it's round and it goes in a little bit more. Now to help with the cutting with foam, I found that kind of twisting it back and forth along the bowl, along the roundness of it, just kind of helped cut through the foam a little easier. Alright, now let's move down to the bottom section. Now if you look here, you'll notice that where the undercut would be, I left it just kind of hanging out there. We'll get back to that after we finish doing the bottom section completely. As I did before, used the X-Acto knife, ran around the lines, and then I went with the gouge tool, cut a little gouge out there, and then I just went vertically as much as I could, using the little back and forth saw motion, twisting motion. So went through it. And then after I got the big major section underneath cut out, then I went through and cut out the undercut afterwards. And I think it came out pretty well. And from there, you're pretty much done with the one side. Congratulations. Now it's time to move on to the other side. Okay, first thing as before, we just made some lines to show where all your cuts are going to be, and from there we start again from the top. Use the bandsaw to make some rough cuts, and then use the X-Acto blade to fine it out a bit. Then move down to the bottom to the section below it. As before, ran the X-Acto knife around the edge, then use the gouge tool to run along that line, made some vertical lines, and slightly cut inwards with the gouge tool as going through. Then finally after that, move down to the bottom section, leaving a little extra material out where the undercut would be. Made the cut underneath, cut all that out, and finally I went through and I recut that extra material out again. And there you go. The other side is now done. It's now you have your rough cut ready to be all finished up. Now if you notice, I have left the very bottom extra material down there. So now what we're going to do, we're going to cut that out. First use the bandsaw to make the first major cut, and leave at where the stuff will be coming out at the bottom a little bit more. After that, just use the X-Acto blade and just cut around it. Be careful not to cut anything off. That would not be cool. And after that, you got your nice little rough cut. Okay, now that you have everything all rough cut, open and everything like that, just take some sandpaper. I used a fine grit 220, and I just went over everything and I just sanded it all down like you would wood. And there you go. You are now done. You're ready to make a mold out of it. Hope you learned something and that you'll have fun making your own foam prototypes in the future. Bye.